Welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. This season is 1999, Part 2. And tonight, we are covering The Iron Giant. And stick around later as we share our thoughts on The Matrix. I am your host, Greg, a board-certified host and film enthusiast. Joining me tonight, well, first, before I introduce them, know this. This is a game show, ladies and gentlemen. I will be awarding points. Those points could come from making clever insights into the movie, jokes, maybe well-timed compliments, maybe cutting insults to your foes. Or, lately, the number one way to get points on the show is just let somebody else say something that deeply angers me. And then points for everybody. Well, let's introduce them. They are our panelists. Joining us first is Ryan. Ryan, hello. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing so good tonight. Thank you for having me. This is a special occasion for me, for sure.
Yeah. I have a note here that says you wish to be introduced as the Irony Giant.
It still makes me laugh.
That's
even though
pretty
I wrote
good.
That and sent that to you.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
Did you just think to tell me to say that?
Yeah, I will also go as the Iron Riant. If you
The
want to
Iron
hear.
Riant.
The Iron
wow.
Ryan's good too.
That's very good. Also joining me is Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Greg. How do you feel about bon mots? Do those get points?
Oh, man. You got a point right there. How about that for a bon mot? And also,
so I will continue to not know what that means. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I figure it's like an amuse-bouche, right?
It's like a good mont.
It's like a good mot.
A good
Yeah.
The applesauce.
Like an applesauce. Very good. And that voice you're hearing is Kate. Kate, thank you so much for coming back. Kate works as a producer on The Culture Show for WGBH. That's right. She's a real radio person. And her work has been featured on KPCC, which, shout out to KPCC. We love you here in LA, KPCC. KQED. These are big collections of letters. WAMU. WHYY. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Come on. And
Made that last one up.
WBUR. Bill Burr in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, you were on our show for so much. You haven't been for a long time. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm getting over a head cold, which and it's going to add a lot of lovely texture for your audience.
Nice.
But I'm really excited to be here. Good to talk to you guys again.
What have you been up to since we last saw you?
Oh man, a gnarly breakup.
Boo.
Yeah, trying to fall in love with Boston on my own terms. One of God's hardest missions.
Okay, very cool. I love it. On your own terms.
Yeah. It's Boston has grown on me. I can't lie. I'm becoming more of a New Englander every day.
Beantown.
Yeah, Beantown, baby.
Very good. Your work has had you talking to Devo, I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Alan
They were
Cummings,
great.
RE Traders.
Yeah.
Traitors.
Yeah, we've had some really cool people on the show. Check it out. The Culture Show, every day, 2 to 3 EST.
Check it out.
89.7.
And sorry about the EST thing, everybody. That's
I
something we can
apologize.
do. Here's how I remember. Add 3 hours, and then you get real time.
Well, for some, we have to understand I'm from Arizona, so that's only true some of the time. Sometimes it's +2. Yeah,
I lived in Arizona for
one.
1 year, and occasionally they just don't do daylight savings.
Yeah.
They're like, no, thank you.
Heroes.
The only brave among us.
Kate, what is your history with the Iron Giant?
Limited. I'm gonna be honest. 1990s animation. I grew up in an all-girl household. We're talking Disney Renaissance. I'm not dealing with brave toasters or Iron Giants. The animation was a little too dark for me back in the day. So this was definitely a new introduction as an adult.
Were you more of like a Tarzan kid?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, anything that had like music was always fun, and anything that had dresses was always fun. If I could color it in a coloring book that they sold me later on, that typically helped. That kind of thing. Yeah,
Mike, how about you? Do you have a history with the Iron Giant?
This is not a full blind spot, but I've seen this maybe like once or twice, and I've always felt bad about that and never corrected it. And then this week, boy, did I ever correct it. Is there a spot on my leg that I'm mapping out an Iron Giant tattoo, Greg? Yes, there is.
Okay. Let me ask you. Did you enjoy it this week? Is that why you're thinking about getting it tattooed permanently on your body?
When I say I wept the last 30 minutes, and yes, I fucking loved this movie.
Ryan, how about you? Are you old enough to have history with this movie?
Obviously, I celebrate everything in the Ready Player One movie catalog.
Oh wow, that's a point for Kate and a point for Mike.
I'm already saying things to upset you, but yeah, I saw this movie back in the day and thought it was great, but probably too young to understand all of the resonance.
Yes.
I'm sure it made me a pacifist, but only on the inside. Now I'm on one outside.
Brother, we saw this movie on a movie hop together.
Oh yeah?
This was the third out of 4 movies that we saw, and I was like, this is a great movie, but I am slowly falling asleep. And I was able to rectify that this week by staying awake 2 different times.
I had to feed you so much metal in the movie theater.
What were the other 3? Do you remember the other 3 movies?
They were all way worse. I mean, like, they were all way worse. It famously opened up against one other movie, but then the other 2 were like, I mean, we're talking like Dirty Work and like
let's not.
Yeah, let's calm down about
that.
Dirty
That's
Work.
the number one movie that fans are mad that is not in our bracket is Dirty Work.
This movie opened up against Sixth Sense and Mystery Men.
Oh yeah,
and was 9th opening weekend.
Wow. And then quickly rose to premiere status. Kate and Mike, we already talked about you. Kate, what are your general impressions of the movie, having witnessed it for the first time this week?
I thought it was beautiful. I loved the animation. I spent a lot of the time admiring the drip on the kid. I mean, but my dreams to dress like a 9-year-old in New England in 1957. Like, I think they're so sharp. I love his little jacket.
Yes, his jacket was really made the movie in a lot of ways.
I was like on Depop, like. So that was a big part of the takeaway for me. I really did love this double nostalgia of the 90s style animation with this 50s Cold War era, aesthetics inside of the animation itself. And I love the message, as corny as it is. It was sweet to spend some time in something so innocent and sincere.
It is a little bit corny. And when it comes to messages, let's get into those right after this break. The Iron Giant is a movie about a huge robot in a small town who makes a big connection to a little kid. It celebrates existence by exploring death, change, and chaos as part of this wonderful e-ticket ride we call life. Boy child Hogarth finds a metal behemoth who has become lost and confused because of a bump on the robo-noggin. Being a lover of all things in need of protection, Hogarth immediately takes charge of raising the robot, and in so doing, moves beyond the gossamer veil of childhood himself. The eponymous Iron Giant is a weapon of some sort, but longs not to be. It clearly has the soul of an artist and a heart made for love. However, the world is, for some reason, not comfortable with a child being in charge of a 100-foot doomsday device, and before you know it, the man starts sticking his nose in. Oh, sorry, not the man. I meant Kent Manley. All sorts of trouble ensues as Manley keeps trying to destroy what he cannot understand, forcing the Iron Giant to choose between what it was made for and what it knows is right. Director Brad Bird wanted to honor his dead sister and make a movie about a gun that didn't want to be a gun and find a way past his own grief. What we have is a child story that is a meditation not just on grief and loss, but on the horrors of violence. On our Come and See episode, we argued that Francois Truffaut's theory that there was no such thing as an anti-war movie might not be true. Does Iron Giant give us our second example, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. I think Truffaut can fuck right off. Like,
get out of here, Truffaut.
I don't know. How about Francis False Foe?
Yeah, dude. How
about he's our
False
Truffaut
friend.
now?
Yes. We're mad, Truffaut. Get out of here.
I understand his point, and basically what he's saying is that war on film is so exhilarating that you can't help but love it, even if it shows the terrors. The first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan is a pro-war movie because people are like, oh, I can go kill Nazis like that. But
1917.
Movie 1917, where like you never blink your eyes, you just get to run around in the same camera for the entire time.
You're watching someone be horrified, but you're like, this is kind of cool. It's well done. It's well done.
Yeah, and so I'd give war awards, I think, is what you're saying when you watch these movies. But this one, I feel like it's hard to make a recommendation for any sort of war or even violence after watching it if you understand it. I think that there's, I don't know, half the country who may not understand it. But I think that if you were on the movie's wavelengths, this is probably as close to an anti-war movie as Come and See was.
Mike, do you agree with that sentiment?
I concur. I would love to hear somebody who sees this movie and hears the phrase in all its permutations, I am not a gun, I don't want to be a gun, and have them walk away with anything else. But that's also how I feel about their feelings on everything. So who fucking knows? Yeah, I think this is our most peaceful movie ever.
Kate, is there any way in which the Iron Giant cuts across that or cuts against that?
Well, I mean, it's so corny to get this abstract, but it's hard to have an anti-war movie because it's hard to have a movie without conflict and glamorized conflict. And so even though the main character is this very gentle little boy, he is at war with something. He's at war with Mansley or Manly or whatever, at war with all the systems telling him that he is not someone legitimate enough or with a legitimate enough worldview or capability to take care of something this great, the responsibility of violence. He could not possibly have wisdom to show. So he's fighting something that whole time, but it is with such a gentle and thoughtful approach that it almost tricks you into thinking he's not fighting. And so, yeah, I guess that's an anti-war movie.
I like that. I like that. The only thing that I would say that I wonder if like pushes against this is when the robot turns into killer robot. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
right?
True. That's probably where they're trying to sell the toys. Like I was joking earlier. Like that's the moment, it's like the little guns and stuff are the things that you can merchandise.
And I think it's important to note with that one of the more famous deleted scenes is we get to watch a billion Iron Giants fuck up planet after planet and just go like basically Galactus out across the galaxy, and they are good at their job.
Oh, okay. So there was
so as a believer of like competency porn, like I want to be that good at my job for sure.
Okay, that's interesting because one of the enduring questions of the movie is like, wherefore Iron Giant? Like what like I honestly, when I was younger and I first saw it, I was like, oh, he's like a Russian. I was like, I guess Kent Manley won me over, and I was like, oh, okay, he's like a Russian. But
wait, you want to say that again? Dan Bongino? Kent Mansley won you over?
But it sounds like this deleted. Watching it this time, I was like, no, he's some sort of alien. And it sounds like this deleted scene kind of makes that case that he's some sort of alien.
Yeah,
I do like the not knowing. Like we say often, like so many movies should sit more in the not knowing and not spoon feeding. Who gives a shit where the Iron Giant is from?
I saw a movie this week, not the Iron Giant, and it posited that it's the question that drives us. And I have to say, that is one of the parts of The Matrix, the movie we're going to talk about in a little bit, that carries me through. But yeah, having that mystery of like where this robot come from, because like I feel like we're not supposed to know.
Yeah, it's like that cutscene from E.T. where we get to see all the ETs on their home planet.
Yes.
All they do is pull on each other's nipples.
Yeah.
That ruins the movie.
Yeah. They honk, 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 honk.
And I think it's important that we have as little understanding of his programmed mission as we do of ours. We don't know exactly the enemy we attack when we're attacking the other. And, we're just uncomfortable. And in that same way, like I thought that was so cool the way they visualized that instinct.
And it doesn't seem like the most original thing to have Kent Mansley act like Kent Mansley, but by putting him up against the Iron Giant, I think like it gives the point of the movie not just that war is bad, but like you guys are looking at the wrong, awful weapon.
Yeah.
Kent Mansley is the one who has always been and will always be. I don't want to sound like I'm saying that it's not the guns that kill people, it's the people who kill people.
Oh, Ryan.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me retract. But it's people like Kent Mansley who are on this thing, like on this journey to destroy everything. If you have any question about it, you destroy the question. That is the Iron Giant. That's the thing that we should all be afraid of. But since he looks like a human, since he's normal size, then
I don't know.
It's just a dude.
Chin's pretty big.
Mike,
Mike,
this movie does something that we kind of saw a little bit last season when we did 96, which is like, it's not the general. It comes off in this movie that like General Fraser's dad is not actually the bad guy. He's like kind of rational, and that Manly is like this weird sort of quasi-government figure that is actually the bad guy. Do you buy that dichotomy that like general good, Manly bad?
Yeah, definitely echoing Independence Day, right? Where there's James, what's his face?
Where there's some like pencil neck that's like, we gotta nuke everything.
And yeah, I think realistically, the general would be like, hell yeah, we do. It's one of those things because it's clear the movie is anti-war and kind of anti the United States way of dealing with things. But it's like, but we can't just do that in a kid's movie, right? So I guess we'll make the general like, he's easily led astray by Mansley, but he's not a bad guy at heart, except he should be court-martialed because he is doing military missions on U.S. soil. Not allowed according to the U.S. Constitution.
Mike just matumboed.
One thing I did like about that, though, was the fact that there was the implication that in the role of the general, rationality reigns supreme. And even in a rational mind, the behavior would be to not escalate conflict. And then, therefore, the decision to escalate conflict is fully an emotional and irrational one made by someone motivated by fear or by a desire to be a gun himself. And so in that way, I kind of appreciate the false lie, like the implication that a general would say no to something like that. But it does call into question the instinct to have a higher up be like, okay, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, but at the general, I totally agree, Kate, because like that's sort of where bureaucracy is kind of an okay thing, where we don't have people flipping off the edge and just saying whatever. I think the general should maybe protect his walkie-talkie a little better, so someone can't just grab it and say like, "Launch a nuke." But
and the sub guy should be like, "That's a different voice." You're gonna just listen to fucking any tone of voice who tells you what to do. You hacks,
dude. If you do it in command voice, people will just
Greg, give me a point.
I was in the. That's freaky. I'm giving you another one because I was doing it while you said to do it. That was like being in the movie Dune.
Everything from chain of command to like the whole 2-key turn system where it takes more than one crazed person. Like that's all.
Unless you've seen The Leftovers. One guy that trains to do it over like several years so he can turn both keys on his own.
Or season 1 of Severance doesn't end with the one guy getting a foot in the air. So if you're as acrobatic as Zach Cherry, then maybe you can do it. But yeah, that's what
makes Zach Cherry call.
So what makes everybody so nervous right now is that Mansley is president, you know? And so if this one guy says something, back then it felt like that general was like, well, let's look at all sides before we just launch nukes.
Yeah.
That's our hero. That's
well, you know what it is? It's kind of the myth of Eisenhower. Like it's very 1950s to me, that idea of a general that is emotionally regulated. And that is where his expertise comes out. That's where his excellence as a leader is shown, is like deep rationality and being able to manage many crazy instincts. So yeah, in that way, it's kind of quaint.
Because we all know that even if that did exist then, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's quaint, but it's also prophetic because that we see just the back of the president's head, and he uses that auto pen. He's just stamping things, and we all know what would happen.
Yeah.
But also, there were several generals in the 2016 to 2020 Trump presidency that were like integral in like maintaining him, keeping him like in check, and then
those ones that are in prison now.
Yeah, the ones that are probably going to be prison, and I think that's a good thing because I'm a bootlicker. One last thing about the Iron Giant here: his message of peace goes so far as to like he sacrifices himself to blow up the incoming nuclear missile. Keep in mind those blow up in the air anyway, but let's not talk about that. So he like his sacrifice, boom, like oh man, he's dead, right? Then we see that he's like building himself again in Iceland. Is that at all like a betrayal of the message?
Imagine if John Coffey in the post credits of the Green Mile, you saw him unelectrocuting. I guess that's harder to rebuild after. But
I think every main character should be the T-1000, and after they die, liquid metal come together.
One thing I was struck though by that is because it is John Coffey is actually kind of singular in that he is a Jesus figure that only dies and doesn't come back. In fact, the way that the Green Mile deals with that is like he puts his life in a way into the prison guard, and that's why he lives so long. But like when we talk about the Matrix, a Jesus figure that dies and he comes back, right? So to complete the like narrative, because the Iron Giant is a Christ figure, right? Like he is invested with either the like holy wrath of God or like the sublime peace of God. And so by sacrificing himself, doesn't he kind of have to rebuild himself in a way to like complete that myth?
That's what the studio head said when they were thinking sequels.
I will say that he isn't a total Christ figure. It's some sort of hybridized Christ with a superhero. Like you would never say that Superman is a Christ figure. And that's Superman's the direct Moses. Parallel that's drawn, So in that way that there is something really important to the message that hope can regenerate too. That on some level, de-escalation is something that is not inherently self-obliterating, but something that can keep feeding people and can be, that you kind of hope you hope it's not a one and done.
That's the dream, right? As we end this segment, Kate, you have 12 points. Mike, you have 10 points. And Ryan bringing up the rear with 7 measly points.
Wow. Ouch.
When we come back, it's time to get into our dream blunt rotation. We're debuting a new segment here, and what a movie to do it with. It is called Dream Blunt Rotation. You are allowed to invite any couple of people from this movie to come and join the circle and get high with some folks from this film. The order is going to be Kate, Mike, Ryan, Greg. We're each going to have 2 picks to join our circle. All right, so who is somebody that you want to smoke with from the Iron Giant, Kate?
Oh, the mom. The mom.
Yes.
I want to know her story. I want to hang out with her.
Yes.
She's got Jennifer
Annie,
Aniston's
I think her
voice.
name is.
She's so cool. She's so like lived in. I loved her perspective. And I want to talk to her about her day with the kids. Crazy. I think that I'd enjoy her company.
How are things going with her and Dean?
Yeah.
Right? What's the inside story?
I definitely don't want to get stoned with her and Dean. I don't want to.
I don't want to get stoned with any couple.
I don't want to get stoned with any couple ever, especially if it's like, a single mom's new beatnik boyfriend. I don't want to have to be really interested in his junk art and all the rigmarole.
Or dodge their sweaty pitch to be the third.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, definitely stay out of the jacuzzi. As Annie says, Hogarth, here's your new stepdaddy-o. Based on Mike's reaction, Kate, to you drafting Annie, I'm glad that you took her and saved her from the 3 of us. That's probably best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know. Annie. I was like, I need some girl time.
She's like the one kind person.
Yeah, it's true.
She's the one lady in the whole movie. Yeah. There's like a couple of background ladies. You'd like see them.
Yeah.
That's why this town is so violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Ladies are off the board.
Yeah, was that Nuke just like, what's his name? Gargamel? That was supposed to be all.
All right. Annie is off the board. Mike, who are you smoking with?
I got to smoke out with my boy Foreman Marv. He has the biggest mustache, and watching him try to light it without getting it caught on fire would be hilarious. He seems like an all right dude, and I think he has a lot of pressure on him. Let's relax, Foreman Marv.
Dude, he is the most normal person in the whole fucking movie. I swear. This is the only guy with like a normal job with normal expectations. So Everybody else is like completely out there.
As someone, Mike, who has smoked things though with longer upper lip facial hair, that room's gonna stink. Bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're gonna cook some hair.
He's probably got that thing waxed up nice. All right. Foreman, is it Marv?
Marv.
What else could it be?
Marv. I don't know if this is true or not, but I very much had him pegged as a small business owner. And it like, if he owns that contracting company, he's low-key wealthy. Okay, yeah. So you're hanging out with a rich person. Your session might be taking place on like a boat.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan. They're flying off the board, Ryan.
I know. In typical draft order.
That's 2 of the named characters.
I love my country so much that I'm going to take one for the team.
That's a point for Mike and Kate.
And I'm going to smoke out Kent Mansley.
No.
To see if I
no.
I'm gonna see
Braver
if
than
I
me.
can calm him down a little bit and maybe save the country.
Okay.
That's my plan.
Okay, this is like a talking some sense into him session.
Or just like get him addicted, and then he'll probably be
Yeah,
better for the rest of his life.
Now, Ryan, it's not addictive, so hopefully he'll not be addicted, but he'll just do it all day, every day for the rest of his life.
I would like to give him the virus called reefer madness.
Where he'll
I
eat
love
people.
not being addicted to something. I do 20 hours a day.
I definitely am not smoking with him. He so blatantly checks the mom out the first time he meets her.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
It's such an up and down. It's kind of crazy.
While being an
In a
inch
very
from
right
the
at
chest.
titty level too. Yeah.
In a very cartoon movie,
Yeah.
I almost expected like a slide whistle when he like surveys her, like whoop. Here's the one thing about about Kent Manley though: tall,
Yeah,
tall,
too true.
red hair.
Okay, that's not
Blue
why I
eyes.
want to smoke with him, though.
The two of you going down the town together. Are you brothers?
You probably look like brothers.
All right, Ryan. I know. Life comes at you pretty fast. Kent Manley says.
Mhm.
We are already to your second pick. So,
Oh, you don't want to go?
I'm gonna go. You know what? Greg's gonna go. I'll go. That makes sense. That makes sense. Let's see. Who am I gonna go? You know what, man? I think sometimes there is such an obvious consensus number one pick that everybody wants to like do the clever thing. So here I am. I'm like never afraid to do the clever thing. You know, I'll do several clever things in a row. I'm going the IG, the Iron Giant.
You can't afford those munchies.
Here's the deal. I'm going to sit inside his mouth.
Whoa.
I'm hotboxing the Iron Giant himself.
I wish I could hotbox
He's getting
my
what
friends.
he needs. I'm getting what I need. Right, exactly. And then, man, after we've blazed, he can give me like the Studio Ghibli, like carrying me across a meadow. This movie has so many moves, and one of them is very much like Studio Ghibli style. Isn't nature beautiful? Swelling music, running across a field.
I can't wait till the part where you're on the ground, he's standing upright, and you're like, "Hey, Iron Giant, light this doob," and he has the laser precision right to blow your head off.
It's also so hippie to like the no waste of it all. The immediate receptacle. Yeah, it's clever.
Exactly. All right, so let's see. We've got Annie, Foreman Marv, Kent Manley, and Instagram. No, Iron Giant. I have to give that to Annie, even though I said repeatedly that the best choice was my own choice.
If Annie buried that military dude, though, Annie Manley, that's
pretty good.
Annie Manley.
Mansley, I guess.
Yeah.
She's gonna have like Penelope from the Odyssey style like suitors. She's the
Yeah.
only lady in like a 30-mile radius.
It's true. Yeah. And she's pretty. You know?
And she's
She's
pretty.
a pretty lady too. Yeah.
You can tell because they had Jennifer Aniston. in the
Exactly.
voice.
Exactly. They gave us all the clues we needed.
All right. So now I'm already going to my second pick. And I'm going to go with someone not top billing, but that's not what Dream Blunt Rotation's about. I want somebody who's a little bit like of a joker. You know, you need someone in there making calls, telling it like it is. I want the guy from the diner early on where he makes the call like, yeah, I know what it was. Whiskey or maybe beer. You're a drunk sea captain who says he saw a huge giant. Man, I want someone that makes good calls like that. So I'm going to go whiskey or beer guy.
Which is the same exact scene with Randy Quaid in Independence Day.
Whoa.
Exactly. And you're like, actually, you guys are the ones who are stupid.
Yeah. Here's a mirror. Look into it when you talk.
So my Dream Blunt Rotation is the Iron Giant and the guy that he terrifies. Also, maybe like some healing there.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm,
look,
mhm.
I know you were afraid of him because a lot of times you don't see a 100-foot tall Iron Man in the water. But look, sit in his mouth with me.
Is marijuana good for that?
Marijuana is good for that, bringing
Yeah.
people together. Did anybody feel like the Iron Giant looked a lot like RoboCop, especially from behind?
Stop
Yeah.
looking at these things from behind.
Pervert.
A lot of times he's walking away.
He's walking away.
Come
Love to
on.
watch
And
it.
you don't hate to see
Yeah.
it.
You know what? I'll watch him walk anywhere. Okay,
He has
Ryan.
a commanding presence.
But no
Yeah,
ass. to
I
speak
probably
of.
will watch him walk anywhere.
You have to.
Just for safety, man.
You have no
Where's
choice.
that dude going?
Ryan, you have Kent Manley and a lot of splaining to do.
Who's gonna who else is going to help me talk Kent Mansley out of destroying the country? I'm inviting somebody who is already hopped up on at cocaine levels.
Yeah.
And we're going to teach Kent how to be a kid again. It's Hogarth Hughes is going to be my third.
Whoa.
Oh,
Hogarth.
shit.
That
Yeah.
is
dark.
leading the youth astray.
Yeah.
No, okay. I think caveat here. Not getting stoned with Hogarth, because it's wrong to get stoned with a child.
Yeah.
But being stoned around a child is a magical experience for you and the
So
child.
you give the kid a bunch of espresso.
For the first time ever, you're interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You listen to Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter.
No, I'm out.
Oh, okay. We're not.
So
doing
is
that.
Mansley.
But we are getting high with a child and a government agent. Okay. Very good. I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
You kid, you need to be more uptight. You uptight guy, less uptight.
So, guys, Hollywood studios are calling about this dream blunt rotation I just formed. They want to make a movie. So.
Mike, we're going to you for your second pick. Who are you pairing with Foreman Marv?
I think there's another one. It's so on the nose. It's the dealer to the entire town himself. Everybody judges him, but they still go to his fucking junkyard to buy that sweet, sweet hashish. It's Harry Connick Dr.
See, this was my absolutely not.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Why?
Just
Explain.
to hear. I mean, we understand, Bud, what you're into, what your thing is. But the fact that every other word of dialogue has to prove it to us, I would fucking kill him. And if we were smoking weed, I would kill
My
him.
theory, though,
Did you?
if he got the weed that he used to smoke in Queens when he lived there, clearly, that he would mellow out a little. And he wouldn't have to shove it so hard down everybody's throats.
That Queen's
No, I think
ditchweed.
he gives. I think he's the kind of guy who tunnels into himself in monologues. I don't think. I'm not getting. Chill out. I'm not
When
getting
I'm
into
high-
that.
The original podcaster.
When I'm high, it turns everybody into the parents from Charlie Brown, so it will not affect me at all.
Everyone just becomes a talking trombone when Mike is high.
That rules.
Very good. Kate, you have Annie. Who are you pairing her with?
Oh, I'm gonna go for that Cloris Leachman character, that little Mrs. Tensage. I don't know. I get the feeling she probably has never smoked the devil's lettuce. She's an elderly lady, but she's at that kind of unhinged moment in life. You get the right group together late at night.
Yes.
I think we could have a good time. I'd like to see what she has to say when she's stoned.
I don't know if this is too meta for the draft pick, but if Kate smokes out Mrs. Tensage and then also voicing her, Cloris Leachman is also smoking.
Yeah.
Then I think you have a part.
That would be
That's
pretty
what I'm
cool.
saying. Yeah, I'm trying to get to the Cloris underneath. You know what I mean?
I am going to give that round to, well, let's see. We've got Annie and Tensage. We've got Foreman Marv and Dean. We've got Kent Manley and Hogarth. What's her last name? Hughes. Iron Giant and the whiskey or beer guy. I'm going to give that one to Ryan for that round. And for the best pairing, I'm going to say Kate.
Thank you. I will say I'm the only one with chicks, so every single other blunt rotation would be trying to get into my blunt rotation.
Exactly.
The thing is, too, about this fun game that I can't wait to play again is that no matter who I pick, I'm on the team.
Yeah.
We lose.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm high, so we're done.
For Ryan, the dream blunt rotation is the blunt never comes to him.
Yeah.
It just keeps going elsewhere. Any HMs, any honorable mentions that we missed here for you guys?
Frank the conductor. There was two conductors. Frank is
There
the
are two
named
conductors.
one.
I hang out with both of those guys.
And they are based on two of the 9 old gentlemen who used to run Disney.
Oh, Frank and Ollie.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird Disney trivia in this, and depending on what version you watched, there might be a little Disney commercial in there for you.
Nobody brought up General Fraser's dad, but once I took Mansley, I felt like that was not a good pair.
Get General Fraser's dad in the room. You guys get high, and you're just like, you know what? End wars. And he's like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Eddie, come here.
Do you know who deserves it? Is the dad of the two kids who almost died and the Giants saved them. That guy is he's stressed out.
He
needs to fucking
chill
relax.
out. Yeah, it's so true.
Okay, I'm gonna have to be old guy here. Is there too much kids almost dying in this movie? I know it's supposed to be like a childhood adventure story, but Hogarth almost dies 8 times, including in a huge tidal wave. He almost gets zapped by the giant several times.
The tidal wave was played way too comically for how dangerous it was.
I know. There had not been quite as many big tidal
that
waves.
moment would be. Yeah.
there's been like 8 tidal waves that have been on the news since then, and it's just less fun to watch one build.
And
oh my God, that's so true. We've
mention.
had more of a tsunami problem.
Yeah. We destroy the environment. Anyway, let's see. Right now, our scores check in at Kate with 16. Mike, you've got 13. And Ryan, you've got 9. When we come back, we return to talking about the movie. Single mom Annie Hughes surrounds herself with 3 men. Her son Hogarth, local beatnik Dean, and the mysterious new-to-town Kent Mansley. How does the Iron Giant depict the various types of masculinity of Rockwell, Maine, Kate?
Oh, I mean, are they that varied? It's a lot of performance. It's a lot of aggression.
That doesn't sound like masculinity.
I'm trying to think. I mean, other than through the kid, I don't know if it felt like a very textured description of these. I mean, it was a lot of people not believing each other when they were telling each other about what they'd seen with their eyes. That feels very male.
No,
yeah, I don't believe that.
Ryan, do you see a difference between the different depictions of masculinity?
I do think that the interesting part of it is sort of going off what Kate said of maybe the slivers outside of the middle of the Venn diagram aren't as big, but what is in there. And I do think that it's not, I disregard the height of the 3 dudes. They are all have Arrested Development. They all, Annie is the adult, and the 3 of them are, now one of them makes sense. Hogarth is small and being raised by Annie, but the other 2,
I mean, in a way, Hogarth is like the most mature of those male characters, though, right?
But I think the other 2 took wildly different paths of being like the extreme alpha and then the artist. Okay, and they're sort of trying to deal with life in that, and I do think that there's a part of Annie that is into Mansley, as gross as it is.
Oh yeah, there's an energy that, again, he's tall. I think that it's very hard to discount. Like, he's tall, he's new to town. She knows that she's not somehow related to him.
But having Mansley in his life and Dean in his life will sort of show Hogarth how to become a man by not doing what they do. Is sort of my take. And then also his ultimate daddy, the Iron Giant.
His daddy slash
also
child.
Mike. Also, yeah, that's the thing. That is right. And then also there is a man in absentia, right? There is his actual father, who in a weird sort of analog to the Iron Giant is like a man of war. Is there anything we can gain from the missing father, Mike?
Well, I think it's especially
because you're a bit of an expert
of missing fathers. In that connects to why Hogarth is the way he is he doesn't have a dude being like, this is how you be a dude. So he is growing very naturally. So he's allowed to be caring. And we can point that Annie probably nurtures that in him. He is curious. He is, he's not a man's Mansley. And hopefully
that's a better name than Kent.
Being around
Mansley, dude. That's got legs.
Hopefully being around Dean, because he's not going to be around Mansley as long. He's going to be like, I should not ever be Kent Mansley. But hopefully Dean doesn't do hopefully Hogarth is matured enough that he can make his own decisions on what it's like to be a dude.
Mansley go Ryan.
What they called people like Dean back then, well, the words that I can say on this podcast, is counterculture. So that's the 2 sides that he has, is that Mansley that's what the culture was, and then Dean the opposite.
That's what I was thinking, that they represent polarities, right? Yeah. And he is sort of being drawn or rejecting one or the other through different moments in the movie.
This isn't in the text at all. This is just in the real countercultures, and it probably was in the Beatniks, but I think it's more artifact with the hippies is those dudes were still just as fucking bullshit. Well, I am the man, so I know we're saying fuck society, but maybe all you sleep with me.
I feel like it's important to notice that Dean lives alone in a scrapyard, and that's how he's chosen to engage with any sort of nurturing instinct or community instinct or connection. For him, the maybe the world of masculinity that was provided to him let him only be either Mansley or this lone wolf in a junkyard. Neither is exactly what Hogarth, I think, is going to grow up to be.
But I do think Hogarth is, we see him, he does not connect with other kids because he is a weirdo. And
He's like he's advanced. Like he is. I mean, it's Brad Bird, so it's hard not to see him as like he is exceptional, right? Like Brad Bird believes in the idea that some people are exceptional and that they are outcasts because of that. And in a way, I feel like every character in this has receded in one way or another. Annie like is fully into like the mom role. Hogarth is fully into the role of like the intellectual. Dean has completely pushed himself into this like scrapyard that is also his studio, and that like what happens is the events of the movie cause all of these people to like emerge from their respective, I don't know, like depression caves or whatever it is.
I think there's another thing going on too with Dean. Like, not that he needed more differences from Mansley to be the more liked character, but there's a part in the movie where Dean is teaching the Iron Giant what to eat.
Yeah.
And he's saying that like that's disposable, that's not art, that's not disposable art. And if you think about the stuff that Hogarth is into, the same stuff that Brad Bird was into, is all of the stuff that was always scoffed at and not considered real art when he was a kid.
Wow.
The Aliens movies, all the stuff that's on the late night that has nothing to offer except for just empty calories actually does have a lot to provide. And, you know, Dean is the first one that Hogarth connects to by saying, look at this comic book of this alien, before he introduces comic books to Iro Gyro.
Okay, I like that. That's very good.
Yeah, that is good.
3 men and just 1 lady. Is that troubling odds?
What do you mean?
I would never be a part of any sort of group
3
or
male
hour-long conversation.
main characters, and then I don't know. It seems kind of problematic.
I looked around the studio and now I get it.
Yeah. How much do we buy the romance between Dean and Annie? Is this just like movies got romance, so here's 2 paired up?
Yes, movies got romance, and like he is different. He is a little dangerous, but not really dangerous. And you know what? He's the one person in this town who cares about her kid other than her. That's got to be
Jerry
attractive.
Maguire syndrome, dude.
But I feel like it more than anything, we're supposed to see Mansley's desire for Annie as kind of representative of this more like violent and extractive worldview. And so on some level, it doesn't matter the reality that there was no chemistry really laid down between those 2 characters. In the end, she low-key doesn't even really like his art. I get the vibe. And so like, I don't know. I feel like more than anything, it was a symbol of the Deans of the world will win because they get the girl.
Hell
and
yeah.
So in that way, it's kind of a lazy shorthand that I did not appreciate. I think it could have been done better.
This is just Reality Bites animated.
Yeah.
This is just her going for Ethan Hawke instead of Ben Stiller.
And it's totally okay
The 2
if
types
your
of
partner
men.
does not like your art.
It's fine. Like maybe you spend all your time producing something and like your partner would not consider listening to it. Literally, if it happened to be on in the car, your partner would be like, turn this off right now. Like I'm not even going to listen to even a little bit of this.
No, that'd be a bad sign. Yeah.
What?
How about like Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
He's literally the voice of the Iron Giant, and is there some sort of like sweetness there that it's inherent? Vin Diesel is often called upon. He's the Iron Giant. He's Groot. He plays the big man baby from the Fast and Furious movies. He looks like a perpetually angry toddler. But we are always to understand about Vin Diesel that inside there is this beating romantic heart. Is that why he's the Iron Giant? Is his version of masculinity supposed to sort of be at play here?
I think what Diesel offers, I mean, we've all seen his pandemic karaokeing alone videos. They are so sweet. His own music is amazing. And I think he is Hogarth. Vin Diesel grew up as a Hogarth and he just happens to grow into the body that he has. And I do think that adds so much more than if he was always that jockey meathead.
He's choosing to sound like that, though.
Oh, yeah. His real voice is closer to ours.
Right?
It might go a little something like what, Mike?
His real voice?
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, it's me, Vin Diesel. All right, let's get an update on the score here. Kate, you are clocking in at 22 points. Mike, excuse me, you have 23 points. Pulling into the lead. And Ryan, you just came in with 20 points. We've got a real barn burner here, folks.
Yeah.
Stick around. When we come back, we're talking about the art style. How well does the film blend cell and CGI animation? Does it stick out as a moment in time, or does it end up being timeless, Mike?
I'm going to say timeless, especially like reading it. Bird was specifically trying to harken back to like the 101 Dalmatians era of Disney. And you can see that in the painted backgrounds and the people when we're moving past crowds, like the very sketched faces. And that feels so timeless and feels like the time period the movie takes place in. And then adding the giant, his flow, he feels alien and not in a jarring way. Like it is beautiful and perfect how these two styles mash.
Because he's CG.
He's CG.
Yeah, he's CGI, yeah. And he's not the only thing that's CGI, but they take advantage of it a lot with the way that he moves. You also see like Dean comes wheeling in on that motorcycle at one point, and you can just tell by the way it moves.
Anything that's like super fluid is CGI.
Yeah. They did something interesting. They when they like programmed the CGI of the robot, they made the lines like a little bit sketchier so that it kind of blends in. And I don't know if you can ever like see it very obviously, but I do feel like that kept it blended in a lot more. Ryan, were you like even aware that there was a combination of these art styles, or is it like so seamless that you kind of like forget it in a way?
Watching this week?
Yeah, just as like, as a person watching it,
as a human being, which I am.
Good.
Watching
Okay.
this movie.
Sus.
I
yeah, you've been affirming that a lot more recently.
Okay.
But no, if you don't mind, I'm a human about to answer this question. I did like you can sort of tell, but the thing that struck me about it, I couldn't really put my finger on until Kate said something in the beginning of this episode that we're currently 4 humans recording right now,
Okay.
which is that this was 90s animation doing 50s animation.
Yeah.
And so it was a movie doing animation, like being, inspired by 40 years ago. And now we are 40 years after
Don't say that.
watching
That's a point
40
for
years,
Kate.
watching
That's
40
a point
years. So
don't do that. Don't do that thing where you remind me how much.
Yeah, that's brutal.
But it's a
That's
good point.
brutal.
You have a point in my book, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for your point. But yeah, like now we have nostalgia everywhere of like, this is what it used to feel like when we were kids. This is what our parents or our grandparents felt like when they were kids. And, you think when you're making the movie, I just want this decade infused, but you can't help. Like, this is sort of the point of the podcast, is you can't help but infuse your own decade into it.
Yeah.
And so now watching it now, it all comes together in like what is unintentionally at the time a perfect package.
And the movie it actually reminded me the most of stylistically because of that was A Christmas Story. No, A Christmas Story. Because in A Christmas Story, it's a very 80s like film style and narration style. It's almost like a lampoon script. But it's set in Indiana in the 1940s. And so all the characters, it adds a sense of caricature to the main character that removes you a few levels through history and allows for that superimposed narrator or that larger than life hero, villain, monster to feel otherworldly, like Mike was saying. Like those two different textures, I think, are really important to the disruption of the aesthetic too.
For sure. And Christmas Story is such a big movie, so important that like when we think of the 40s, we think of the 80s version of that 40s. It's not the real 40s we ever think of anymore.
Which was in black and white still.
Right, exactly.
And obviously we don't talk about Woody Allen, but I feel the same way from the movie Radio Days. That like that's my version of that time, but it's rooted in a completely different time. Is there there were other animated movies that came out this year, notably Tarzan and Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 it was one of the bracket movies. Is there anything that this is doing differently than those or better than those?
I think that blend. I think Tarzan also was trying to blend animation and CG stuff, and I don't think it is because it doesn't have that timeless factor. It does. They're like, it's a surfer in the jungle instead of being like, what if we try to do the Jungle Book in the 90s? I think that would have looked way cooler than what they fucking did with Tarzan.
But it's so much more of a distraction.
Yes.
When the new stuff happens in Tarzan. Yeah. I mean, not as distracting as like Phil Collins singing in the jungle.
Dude, Kate, you mentioned you brought up Tarzan earlier. Do you feel like in Tarzan that that there's like less of this like simple blending of the art into the background, and it's more like everything in Tarzan, I don't know, feels like a very modern choice in a way.
I think so. It feels there is nothing that roots it in a warmth that feels before its time, unlike the Iron Giant. Tarzan is kind of sterile. You know, even the soundtrack is, I mean, I love it in a lot of ways, but it's like, does it have the lushness of a jungle? Does it speak to the true pain of being an orphan? Like, I think about the emotional heavy lifting that Toy Story 2 did.
Hell yeah.
And I think about that in comparison to both films. And it's like, that is, it kind of remarkable how much more put into an emotional mindset Toy Story 2 was able to do for me as an audience member than the Iron Giant even, you know. I wonder why. I wonder if that's, I don't know. What do you guys think that is?
I fought against Tarzan being in our
It's a weird movie.
It's a weird movie.
And I think it's because like we have 3, first of all. We have Toy Story 2, South Park, and Iron Giant.
Wow, yeah, I didn't even think of South Park, the other animated movie.
But like they are trying to do such different things, and they're trying to like propel their own pathway, both storytelling wise and animation wise. Tarzan is just trying to keep up and do it all. You know, like Disney right now, and I don't think Tarzan's a very good movie, but like they're in the back seat, sort of watching everyone else grow and evolve, and so it doesn't fit in. Like Toy Story 2 is doing both the like kicking us right in the emotional dig.
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
Revitalizing animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there is the core of a really good, really classic movie in Tarzan. I think it also does a really good job of like blending traditional animation and like computer animation in a way that makes the motion feel fluid, like when Tarzan goes through the jungle. And then the jungle itself, very lush painted backgrounds. But choices like Rosie O'Donnell as like a monkey that has like a very modern New York accent. And then Phil Collins, I love the Phil Collins soundtrack, but there's not a single time he comes in where you're not like, wait, what? For like half a second.
It's
like, why
when I think of the jungle,
yes,
I think of Phil Collins.
I think there's something very disorienting about pretty much all of the aesthetic choices made in Tarzan. And I feel like that's not true at all of the Iron Giant. And that has to come down to craft. That was someone's choice. That was someone saying, this is how we're going to incorporate this technology in a way that is artistic and will stand up decades later.
It reminds me of Hunchback with Tarzan, where like you guys built this whole crazy world, but you couldn't help yourself by having George Costanza play a gargoyle.
Yes, it's that exact thing. It's the gargoyle.
A gargoyle.
It's the vision of one
like,
person. Right? It's the vision of one person with Brad Bird versus the art by committee, and Disney playing with scared money at this point.
And talk about...
exactly. It's scared money.
Yeah, it's scared money, and it feels tied to that Jungle Book style. Let's write for a character actor that we already know will get laughs with their cadence. You know, there's a laziness in that decision.
Now, Brad Bird fucked hundreds of other directors because this movie cost $70 million and it made like 20.
Like on his way to the top.
Yeah, but they did not... but he did not compromise, it seems like, anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He learned the hard lesson, but still.
Well, we got a space of time here. How does he do? Because we have the other Brad Bird representation we have is Incredibles 1 and 2, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Ratatouille, and then everybody, of course, who could forget Tomorrowland.
I celebrate Tomorrowland every year. I really
do. I'll get to that tomorrow, man. He's not done a ton of things, but some of these have been really good projects. Some of them have not. What is his like distinct thing that he's bringing to this, do you think, Ryan?
I think that like he really loves, and like there's a lot of stories of people who really love animation that have like gone on to like do terrible things outside. I feel like it creates, or like it's a magnet.
You mean like terrible art?
No, like terrible thing. Like
they're bad people.
Yeah. But Brad Bird really has this love for animation that, like, from the past and the future, you see him bring it all home, and like sort of everything he makes is sort of like representative of the whole.
Yeah.
You know, of like this is the entire art world. Incredibles, you see it. If anybody had seen Tomorrowland, they could probably argue that as well. And we get that in Iron Giant, where this isn't not just like hearkening to the past, but also presenting the road to the future of storytelling.
Oh, you know what that means. It's time for a speed round.
Oh.
Could Shooter McGavin just slide into being Buzz Lightyear? Do we even need Tim Allen anymore?
No, we do not.
No,
Shooter
next.
McGavin should be in way more.
Yeah.
I appreciate if you know the name of the actor Shooter McGavin, please keep it to yourself. He, of course, will always be Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore, including even as he's the love interest on Hacks, where he's fucking killing it. He's so good in that.
He is good as Shooter McGavin.
Yeah. Do you think Shooter McGavin is happy to always be cast as like a complete asshole?
I bet at a certain point you embrace what your face and voice are. And you are the nicest person on set.
Big sweetie for me.
Jenna Maroney syndrome for Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, I think there's a pleasure in it at a certain point. Being able to play the worst, like the character of your worst impression and be like, this is how I make money, motherfucker.
Going back to A Christmas Story, I learned long ago that I look like the bully from A Christmas Story. I just have to roll with that.
Okay. But you look just like him.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
You even wear the little hat. There's a Shooter McGavin internet story from a couple years ago.
Yellow eyes.
Ouch.
Might give her a minute.
Ryan has beautiful blue eyes, it must be said.
Not yellow rat eyes. A couple guys ran into him at the airport, and they're like, Shooter McGavin. And he's like, you pathetic fucks. That movie came out 30 years ago. Get a life. And they walked away dejected. He turned around and went, Shooter, and did the guns at them.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that to be points for you, Mike, except I was
that
excited to hear
guy.
it.
No.
Yeah, I had to give you some. Real talk. How many times during this movie were you like, fuck Ready Player One?
Yes.
I hate that I have any other image of the Iron Giant in my mind.
It's crazy how much better the CGI is in this movie than in that movie.
I've heard that they have changed what happened in the movie, where they made it clear that a player was wearing a skin, and that was not the actual Iron Giant.
What the fuck? What do you mean? Of course it's not the actual. They're in the internet.
But they want to make it clear that they would never use the Iron Giant to cause actual violence.
Yeah, because a guy is like riding the Iron Giant into war. Like, sorry, you didn't want to be a gun, bro.
Yeah.
You're just a really good gun. You're high level. You're elite. Is this the movie that's going to make us cry the most all season, Mike? What do you think?
1,000%. TPM, tears per minute, it already is, and it will continue to be so. The last 30 minutes, you guys.
Well, why? What?
Yeah.
It did not have that effect on me, Mike. Why? What was that about for you?
Maybe I'm more of a boy than I think of myself.
Yeah, maybe it's that simple.
It really is you are a gun. You don't need to be a gun. And just every time he thinks Hogarth is dead, which is a lot. There's something when Vin Diesel doesn't have a lot of lines, he really can choke me up.
Yeah.
Like Fast.
Yeah.
And the Furious.
That's furious when he did that jump punch, and it's just like, that's so beautiful, man.
You know who held it together great, though, was Hogarth. Normally at the end of these movies, like, the little kid is in tears.
Yeah.
Hogarth understands what needs to happen. He's like, all right, buddy. Get out of here.
Wait, that's a good point.
You go do that meteor.
Hogarth is the only male that grows in this at all. Like, he's the only one who learns how to actually be an adult.
The privileges of being nine.
Yes. Well, you know what? It's really... we talked about like how much his like all of his different like paternal influences, but really ultimately all that falls away because we watch his conduct with the Iron Giant and we see that the biggest influence in his life by a billion is his mother. The things he says to the Iron Giant are literally the things that she has said to him, that he has to get his life in order and pick up after himself and take care of himself, and if he makes a mistake, try to like fix the mistake. And be a better like version of himself. That's all what Annie says to Hogarth. And I mean, Ryan, you're the only parent on the show. Do you find that like you are saying the same things, the same like affirmations and support to your daughter that like you receive from your parents, and in that way you feel like you're taking their place?
Oh, for sure. I'm always saying to my daughter, give me another vodka tonic.
Okay. Ryan is a phenomenal dad, but not every dad had Annie for a mom. Okay, let's check in with the score here. Kate, you are at 37. Mike, you are at 38. Ryan, you are at 32. Folks, the fans have written in to let us know that they're not quite sure why we are talking about two movies on every season or every episode of this season. And so we just wanted to take a little time to explain what we are doing. We are reprising, obviously, 99 this season. But when we did 99 the first time, we only did 8 movies. And we were excited to do 16 movies, which is our new format. And so what we're doing is we're doing 8 new movies now. And then we already had episodes for 8 previous movies. We didn't want to do whole new episodes. We didn't want to say the same things over and over again. And so what we're doing is the plan was to replay the old episodes in between the new episodes. We have since lost the tapes to the original 99 episodes. And so what we're doing is we're just going to have a little bumper at the end of every episode where we talk about one of the shows that's still in the running, or one of the movies, rather, that's still in the running, but is not going to get its own entire show. The Matrix! My God, I remember exactly where I was the first time I saw this. The movies. Thomas Anderson is sleepwalking his way through life with only one thing keeping him going. The answer to the question, what is The Matrix? The answer to that is, of course, The Matrix is a kick-ass movie that never stops entertaining for one GD moment. Forget the sequels. Forget the weird red pill cultural legacy. Forget everything and remember what it's like to be enfolded in the world of pure wonder and enjoyment that this movie provides. This might be the movie I've seen more than any other, and I felt captivated the whole time. What say you, fellow cinephiles? Did this movie still find a way to grab you despite the fact that we have lived with it for so long?
This movie is why movies are made. This movie fucking rules
Dude.
and slaps, and there's so little wrong with it. It's crazy.
It's a banger and a bop.
Okay. One thing I thought of while watching this movie is these sisters will never make a bad movie ever because of just how good it is.
Are
now,
you Speed Racer pills?
Of course, no. Of course, they went on to prove me very wrong.
Oh, Greg, like stock on Speed Racers at an all-time high.
I know, but have you seen it? Like, I don't like their aesthetic. Their aesthetic like got very, very weird, and I think it works for some people after this. But holy shit, this is two people who know how to make a movie. It delivers on so many levels, and I feel like it's so good that you actually can't remember how good it is.
The scene that I will always think of, and like I was never like I remember so many people were so Matrix philosophy people, you know, like just discussing nonstop about what it means and what it could mean and what it doesn't mean. And the scene that I will always go back to every time I think about this movie is we're going to need guns, and then rows and rows and rows.
Yeah.
Like more than they could probably fit into a bag or two.
Yeah.
Like that's 10,000 times more guns than they need. And I was like, did you think of that while writing this movie? Or did you think of that and say, we should write a movie around it where we get to have all these guns and we get to learn how to fly a helicopter immediately. And we just get to like turn the ultimate fantasy video game, whatever, into a movie. And that's where the movie delivers the strongest, is when like they are saying, here's what movies should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh
wow.
no,
there is a butt present in the room.
I want to ask you two, where are you at now in 2025? Having done this movie in
2018,
we did a show on this movie. We have seen it in 1999 and a million times since then on Larry Fish's performance.
Okay, I like that you bring that up. There are two different performances that he's rendering here. So the part of what I like about this movie is when they are in the Matrix, all of the people in the crew, they are in a fictive realm. And what they take into what we think of as the real world, what they take into the Matrix is this elevated, hyper-real style. So your question is difficult for me because Morpheus is a character that Lawrence Fishburne's character plays inside the Matrix. And what it is like, remember how this is...
And that's all obviously represented by the clothes.
Yeah.
And so it's also represented by how they act.
Also how they talk.
Right.
Dorks.
How they move, because they're dorks, because they are like really LARPing.
Yes.
But it is like, they can't help it. It is a game to them. And it reminded me a little bit almost of like, remember I didn't know this the first time I watched it, but like Pose and the ballroom scene, like that is a highly elevated, and somebody could come by and say, you're actually acting dorky, talking about your houses and all this drama and stuff. But it's like, it insulates them from
they have found their place.
Yeah.
Their place to be.
And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that.
What I like about kind of the lack of irony, that if this movie was made for the first time 10 years later, Neo would be like, so no rims on your sunglasses? They just float
I
there?
fly now?
Yeah,
I fly now.
It would definitely be like, so you just wear those inside? And just let him be. Just let him be.
Yeah.
Just Chris Pratt commenting on the movie that he's in instead of just being in the movie.
Because you're afraid that the viewer will. So you're like, I'll do it first.
And certainly we've got one more for the Jesus file here, right? I feel like we are on like such a roll. This actually gives us one of our white men going through it, which is
Absolutely.
Thomas Anderson in the real world. Because
he works in a cubicle.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, part of what he needs to escape is just the mundanity, right, of the real world. But then also we've got another in our entry of Jesus figures, right? He is the one. He dies and then comes back. He's like invested with new terrible powers.
And those two things linking together make so much sense to me because one, who is the greatest white man going through it in history, if not Jesus Christ? And it is every other movie, the podunk beta white guy who's going through it wants to be Jesus. And Neo is a Jesus who does not want to be Jesus. And so it makes sense that they go to he's the only one of ours who's just like, no, not me. Not me. It couldn't be me versus Lester Burnham or the narrator from Fight Club, who are like doing everything they can to become the coolest guy.
There's this feeling at the end of the Iron Giant that it is like the first installment of something. There's almost this feeling at the end of like, and the Iron Giant will return in. And I submit that the Iron Giant is a lot like E.T. in that by not birthing a universe, it is superior. That's how I totally feel watching The Matrix too. I wish nothing ever came after The Matrix. I wish we could like strike all that stuff from the record.
I mean, we have this weird thing that we can do when rewatching these movies is that like, I'm sure when I sat in the movie seat in 1999 that I was like, oh, fucking hell yeah, Matrix 2.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When I saw him fly towards the camera to rage against the machine.
Oh, like, get with it now.
Is there any way that you could just like beat up my asshole more than what is happening on screen? But then thinking about it now, it produced 3 extra movies, all of which I have forgotten. And so now this is the end of Neo is flying at the screen. And hell yeah,
dude.
This is the best ending.
That really is the end, right? Like it should end right there.
If that stayed the end, think about the Speed Racer, whatever. But if we got 3 other Wachowski movies instead of 3 more Matrix movies, I bet they'd be so much more fascinating to talk about than the 3 Matrix movies we get after this.
Yeah, I think they lose control of their style a little bit, and it's because they make The Matrix, and it's kind of perfect. And instead of just being like, we'll follow this vision to other places, they are trying to like reverse engineer The Matrix, and somewhere in there, they get so lost in the sauce that they don't know how to they don't know how to separate like what's good and what's bad.
Which brings me to my main point and my major issue with this movie.
Okay.
1994 or 5, True Lies.
Yeah.
1997, Titanic. 1999, The Matrix. This is James Cameron's final movie before he goes nutso, Avatar-wise, like they did, like the two sisters did with The Matrix. This is, I never connected it before this week. I always thought of like anime, Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that. But this is the ultimate final James Cameron movie. We have a ragtag group of people on a ship, aliens, the abyss, trying to be in a movie where the director has taken a basic sci-fi premise and put a ton of philosophy behind it. And I think the reason why this movie is not in James Cameron's top 5 for me, which I do think like that is, James Cameron is so corny. Everybody thinks that like he just makes dumb big things, but like the people on the ship of aliens or the abyss or Sarah Connor or Harry Trasker or Rose and Jack, they have corny lines, but we all really enjoy those characters. And the people on the Nebuchadnezzar drive me fucking nuts. They're fucking awful. Tank, whoever plays Tank, I'm sure he's like a pretty good actor. And I know that they could write good screenplays or dialogue because this is coming after Bound.
Yeah.
Like, I know that they're capable of this, but the people on the ship, like, and I think Tank is like worse than Mouse.
Whoa.
The people on the ship are fucking awful and ruin the movie for me.
Well,
in a way that James Cameron would never let happen.
It really sells why Joey Pants does what he does. It's not just because he wants to take steak again.
Yeah, he's
like,
fucking sick of those
these
people.
fucking people anymore.
Something I was maybe more aware of than I ever have been before is like, I think we did talk about this in the 99 season, but these people are kind of terrorists, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, their thing is like, if you are not awake yet, we will ice you in 1 second. We'll kill you before you can turn into a bad guy. And is there like something less cool about the lobby shooting scene?
Well, yeah, I mean, like all those security guards, right? Are those are just people in their battery
who don't go
pods?
home? Yeah, like but they live like lives that to them are real. Like they don't know that they're Matrix folk,
But
so they like.
If this was real, if you knew there was the real world, none of this matters. And it's definitely like they are terrorists. And in that terrorist freedom fighter fashion, it is the sacrifice the few for the greater good.
Oh, yeah, totally. But like, I guess my point is, does that like, I mean, pre 9/11 or like post 9/11 now, does that feel any different? Like to like kind of root for what is a group of terrorists? Because all terrorists say, people, innocent people have to die now,
Right.
but it's for the greater good.
Honestly, when I was watching it with my wife said what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I had been we're going to need guns in that point in the movie. And so I didn't care. I was all in.
I think it's an interesting to think about, but it also like I think what is helpful for us living in Empire is to remember that every terrorist thinks they're Neo. And maybe we think about their perspective a little more and think about how we sold them a bunch of weapons a decade before they fought us. And I get what you're saying, but when I think we are the Matrix and we are the biggest villains in human history, fucking kill us all. I don't care.
You heard it here first. Guys, there's a part where the helicopter pilot it goes from a normal person to an agent.
Yeah.
In the exact same way that the T-1000 becomes the helicopter pilot. This is a James Cameron movie.
Dude,
I do like your stance.
Even though Terminator 2 is my favorite childhood movie and The Matrix is my favorite like teenage years movie, this is so weird to say, but this is the first time I've ever seen how much it's the same fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just like plot wise, but how like the visual touches, like for instance, the minigun firing out of that helicopter is like a combination of that minigun helicopter scene from Terminator 2. And obviously, like plot wise, it's very similar. It's so weird that I never thought of that until this time watching it.
Yeah, both movies have both. I mean, Terminator is probably James Cameron's masterpiece, right? The series, the first two movies. Both movies have that thing of like, I mean, humans should fight, I guess, but don't you deserve all this? Like, didn't you bring this upon yourself? It's the smell.
Oh God, I do have to say, I think there is something about watching the Iron Giant twice in the same week that I watched The Matrix that made me feel like, I mean, this is not an anti-violence movie, right? It's not like we have to, like,
the exact
yeah, this is like you have to use violence,
Yeah.
even against innocent people sometimes, because you have to. That's what a corrective to evil violence is. Good violence. And the Iron Giant had just convinced me that that's not true.
But I mean, they could have learned. They could have said, "Hey, Tank, teach me how to recreate security cards, or teach me how to knock out people in like in a way where they're not harmed." You know, they learn the most violent things they can.
Yeah.
Or they could have the
on
Mission
purpose.
Impossible masks probably pretty easily. You don't always have to look
Right.
like you if you can think about anything.
But like their whole line before this movie was made is that like why action movies have no thinky and why thinky movies have no action, and so that's what they wanted to combine.
Yeah.
But clearly they are obsessed with the action scene. Like
Yes.
they are. That's what they want to do. Is like they create the thinky so they can do
Right.
the
Yeah.
action.
So you could be like, see, aren't we better? But that minigun scene is fucking art, where it's like underneath and the bullets are raining down on it. I was just like, fuck.
Those raining bullet cases, that's one of the most beautiful things I've
Yes.
ever experienced in my entire life. The sound of that, the slow-mo, and it's bullet casing.
Some people will like design their house around a fountain that has water come up. Why not have bullets come down?
Yeah.
on you
So
as, like, you
beautiful.
walk out into your backyard.
So beautiful. Well, The Matrix can still very much win this. I mean, the only reason we're not doing an episode about it is because we already did an episode in the original season. But watching it, despite what Ryan said about the people being insufferable, I feel like it's got a real good chance, even though we didn't do a whole episode.
What I like about the people, I know you're wrapping up, but what people so often on this show, we're like character over everything, fuck plot character. And the Matrix is such a good argument about why you can't say that's the rule always. Fuck character. This plot rules.
I do have to say, I think they could maybe do less exposition in it. The more they talk about what's going on, the less cool it all seems.
I don't think that you can, in a screenplay, have Morpheus be the deliverer of exposition, and then also every question that is asked of him, he says, "Well, who knows what I will say?" And like that. That's an issue.
Why do you waste my fucking 2 days before Morpheus?
There's a character named Switch.
Yeah.
Is she supposed to switch gender every time she goes in and out?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this kind of starts with two closeted trans siblings exploring their trans identity, and there was supposed to be a little bit of gender switching, and the studio was like, "Oh wow, that is such a powerful idea, and we're gonna just like take a quick pass on it.
Maybe less on this.
Yeah. But at watching it now, it's undeniable, and like it becomes through the series, it becomes even more clear. Like there is an obvious symmetry between Neo and the woman that loves him, Trinity. They look a lot alike. Beautiful. And Neo goes on to basically wear an outfit that is a dress for the rest of the movies. Mm-hmm. Like it is, they're all like, it's a queer community. That's what it is. I mean, and that's why I talked at the ballroom scene in part, because that's what they're doing. They're like, they're being queer.
And Joey Pants needs to get out because he'd rather have the fake world of this isn't existing.
Of heteronormativity.
Yeah.
And his like alpha
He's
male.
choosing heteronormativity.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why it's so weird that the movie became like the ultimate, like, it's like, I have never been more sure that these people cannot read a text than that they choose this.
Not
as,
subtext.
Yeah,
just
a text. They can't say what the movie fucking says. Like they can't. It's obviously
about being a real
obviously
man.
The movie is it's obviously a movie against them and their view of life, and they have no fucking idea.
I like Keanu Reeves. If it was Larry the Cable Guy, though, that would have been a 4-star movie.
They're all ciphers, and they just don't know it.
For sure. Well, that is our segment on The Matrix. The next time we talk about it will be in the finale, where it will be very much vying for 1999's movie of the year. But we're going to return to Iron Giant and our guest, Kate, right after this. Awards. As part of this movie being forgotten, I feel like it didn't do, like, it has like literally no nominations.
No, I mean, like, yeah, everyone ignored this movie for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, yeah.
Oh, it's an American classic. Yeah, like, I mean, that has like two moves. One, nobody's heard of this movie ever. Two, it's everybody's favorite movie of all time. But we're going to give it awards because, by gum, it deserves some. Starting off with pound for pound performance. Kate, who do you think gives us our best pound for pound performance? And remember, it's not like the actual weight of the characters, because then clearly the Iron Giant would have to be so much better than everybody else.
Yeah, he's so heavy. He's made of iron.
Yeah, he's just he's very heavy. Yeah. He's a very heavy man.
I have an instinctual answer, but I feel like other people are gonna bring that character up. I've been thinking about it pound for pound. I think John Maroney as the general did a very hard thing of sounding both paternal and stern, and like he could represent the state, but there was enough in his voice that allowed for, the idea that Dean could reason with him and explain the escalation, and it makes sense. I also just think he's such a great voice.
Yes.
He really cut through all the other noises I was hearing, and I could hear him as a general, as an Eisenhower era general, for sure.
Nothing against Rosie O'Donnell, but like if you go get the voice that the character needs instead of the
oh my gosh,
popular right there, that's what the movie wants.
Exactly.
Find somebody that fits the role, not just like this is a popular person. And it should be mentioned, 99, Rosie O'Donnell was like freaking huge.
She was flinging koosh balls into her eyes,
dude. Yeah, but just not the right person to be a gorilla in the mist.
Right.
Totally.
Mike. Yeah. How about you? Who gives us, in your opinion, the best pound for pound?
I was shocked. So often when you get a celeb, they can't voice act. because they're pretty
Yes.
hindered.
Oh,
And
gosh.
the like warmth and nuance in Jennifer Aniston's Annie, I was so surprised the whole time. I forgot it was her, and she was great on Friends, but like in her movie roles, often she doesn't do that much. So the amount of character in this character, and she doesn't get a lot of screen time. I was super impressed.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I agree mostly with the thing you said about that. Sometimes, like, your conventional actors, they go to do voice acting, and it's just like they suddenly don't know how you're supposed to like emote with only your voice, and she doesn't have that problem at all. And I would say nobody in this movie really has that problem. I feel like this is one of the best like voice acted movies that we had for a while.
But nobody has to go big ever.
Yeah,
You know, there's not like those 6 characters who have to be like do a billion voices and make a bunch of jokes and kick people in the nuts. Like everybody is so grounded.
imagine if the Iron Giant kicked somebody in the nuts, Ryan.
That'd be
I could
hilarious.
They'd fly off into the distance. I'm such a like worrywart that like the Iron Giant several times just picks up a car and throws it off into the distance. You don't know where that's
people
going,
died every
bud.
time.
I know. I was so
But-
stressed about that.
But you can't just throw a car. Come on, man. Be a little more safe. Ryan, who's giving us our best P for P?
There is this I don't know, like there's this type of voice that is often with little kids. It's a little gruffer than it should be, a little raspier because
It is an adult lady's
it's
voice.
an adult person.
Down to the cow, man.
Yeah, and they smoked a pack of cigarettes before the recording. But I thought Eli Marienthal, who I have never heard of before or since this movie, did a great job as Hogarth. He had that classic sort of like, you know, I'm a little wiser than my years,
Mhm.
but I crack jokes at a quicker rate than I should, but still, I thought that like all of the big questions and you could like hear the eyes and the mouth widen every time he saw something just through the voice. I thought he did such a good job.
I have to say, it is sort of the policy of the podcast that children are terrible actors, and it's a personal policy of mine that should not be a job. And no job should be a job that a child can have. And so I don't think there should be such a thing as child actors. But
Coal mining.
in lieu of both of those things, this kid fucking kills it. I'm giving this one to Ryan because like this movie is going to work or not work based on how this little kid does in this role, and it 100% works because he is note perfect in every read. And I mean, there's like some really tough things he has to do in this movie, and he just does such a good job with it.
If this was Pauly Shore voicing Pinocchio, this movie would not have worked.
Okay, well, I got my hopes up. But unfortunately, America, don't Google that doesn't exist. Although, honestly, do Google it because then
It's so funny.
the AI will try very hard to figure out what the fuck you're talking
Yeah,
about. And it'll
exactly.
be like, so I guess there's a Pinocchio with Pauly Shore, but people don't like it because they don't like Pauly Shore.
We all got stuck
Okay,
on
and then,
Pleasure
so-
Island. We
Okay, that's
horrific.
the island now has one more shore. All right, let's stick with you, my dear friend Ryan. Brad Bird is a director and a human man, although his last name is confusing on that regard. What is his signature moment in this movie, you would say?
I think like I wanted to do something with Iron Giant and I wanted to do something with the animation style, but I think really if I see the director in the movie, I have to pick it.
Yeah.
And him showing Dean that comic book in the restaurant and basically showing us, the audience, like, hey guys, this is what I'm into. Do you think that you could also be into it too? Even just for like a short little while. Can we go on this journey together? And then sort of
Could we as a whole culture start getting really into this
yeah,
now?
and like finally like you know, make my whole childhood feel like it was okay. And then like we see that through the entire movie, you know, it's in the script, it's on the screen as far as like Hogarth watching these movies, but it's also clearly inspiring everything that we see as well.
I love when Hogarth is like going upstairs because he hears a noise, and he's also watching a cheesy sci-fi movie, and the soundtrack perfectly sort of like syncs up with what he's doing. So boil yours down, Ryan, for me?
Hogarth showing Dean the comic book.
Okay, Hogarth showing Dean the comic. Okay, that's perfect. Mike, what's your signature moment?
the interplay between robotics and nature. So when the giant is chasing after Hogarth before he knows the giant is a friend, and like the terror in that scene, and he's walking through it reminded me so much of in the first Incredibles, Mr. Incredible, and like the big round tentacled robot crashing down the trees and after him. And even when we like technology, it kills nature.
Wow, these are good answers. Kate, what do you... Oh, Ryan, did you want to add?
Nope.
Kate, what would you like to posit as the signature moment for the director?
I think he world builds through artists a lot. And so, whether it's Edna Mode or when Ratatouille's explaining his creative process and he animates that, he likes a Dean character. He likes someone who brings you into like a niche interest. It really blows open the universe into, it's not just one kid and his goal, or one family. And there's an infrastructure around each of the main characters in his movies that I think he really likes to play around with. And I think probably just likes to make art through them. I think he wants to fashion design through Edna Mode. And I think he wants to make scrap metal art through Dean.
And like embrace that, like he wants to love being an outsider, which I think he doesn't necessarily. I think he's like a little shy of the fact that he is an outsider. And so he wants to, like, these artists that you mentioned, they all love like being outlandish and being larger than life, especially the Iron Giant. I'm going to give that one to Kate. Kate, let's stick with you. This movie was made in 1999, and I'm sure cultural mores and expectations have changed since then. When did you find yourself cringing during this movie?
I didn't feel a lot of cringe, I'll be honest. The only thing that does come to mind is Mansley checking out the mom in that moment, just because it's so old school the way that it's done. Like, I don't think nowadays you could get away, especially in like our gooner culture, with like Mrs. Incredible and shit. Like, I don't think you could get away with like a shot of someone's like tit to waist to hip ratio and a slow like build up. It's like I don't think we do it like that anymore.
Unfortunately,
you don't actually hear a wolf whistle during that, but the movie like heavily implies wolf
you notice
whistle.
it. You're like, mom is hot enough to fuck.
Dude, yeah. And it's so weird because like so many other things, like we judge Kent Manley as he surveys her.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we also survey her in that way. Like, we judge Jabba the Hutt because he puts Princess Leia in a slave girl outfit, and then we ourselves enjoy seeing her in that outfit.
The voyeurism of the male gaze is so profound and deeply felt throughout this entire medium, but when they animate it, it's super conspicuous.
You made people spend a lot of time.
You did this frame by frame.
If you film it, that camera will rip off 24 frames per second. If you animate it, you guys are drawing each one of those pictures.
I heard that he didn't even want that, but the animators just did that. So it was like, I guess we're putting it in, perverts.
I believe it.
Honestly, that I haven't heard that about this movie, but I've heard that about so many other movies where like the animators clearly just like took control of the project for like one scene and they're like, we're putting in what we want here.
Yeah.
And it's fucked. Mike, what do you say? Is anything making you cringe?
There is a scene where Hogarth, I think it might be when Mansley is looking at Hogarth sleeping, which is it's supposed to be cringy, so that doesn't count. But Hogarth climbs into bed with his full-on red Converse still on. His muddy sneakers are on, and he's under the covers. What the fuck is wrong with you? I know you're 9, but that's disgusting, you freak.
Yeah, that's so true.
Very disconcerting. Very disconcerting. Ryan, what do you got?
We already talked about it, but I do think that like the weakest part of the movie, like the part where it brings the truth the least, the hackiest part is Dean's dialogue. And like we would have got it all, but it felt like a really bad SNL skit often when he was talking. And so just pull back the daddy-os. And I think that character, we would have gotten it, everything that you wanted to say, but it still was weak.
Or kick it up a notch. Give me Ned Flanders' dad's voice. Beep, bop, boop, bop, beep. Hey, man. We're hanging out in this small town, daddy-o. I'm going to give that one to Kate. With the male gaze appearing in this movie.
Its conspicuous appearance.
All right. Yeah.
For the first time on this podcast.
For the first time in this podcast, things got a little male gazy. This is a movie at the military. Gaze in the military? That's very 99.
Very.
Ryan, sticking with you. Movies, a lot of people are like, movies, that's the thing with only the visuals, right? No, actually not. There is sound as well. Many times, that sound is music. When married together, Mwah, chef's kiss. Sometimes. What do you got? What's the best music moment?
Let's close our eyes and go back to a moment where Mike is in his lazy boy, blubbering like a goddamn baby in the last 30 minutes.
His wife walks in, just makes like kind of a disgusted sound, and then walks right back out.
Oh, you guys were there?
I'm world building. No, I'm just adding a little flavor in here.
Here's Mike's tears. Doesn't look at him, but here's the tears and says, "Oh, I guarantee he's
not
jerking off right
shit.
now." And in that last 30 minutes, Iron Giant is in space.
Yeah.
And he says, I get to be who I want to be, and I am like Superman. And he grabs the missile, or he explodes into the missile, which, Greg, you already said that you could explode those from the ground. Like, you didn't have to do that.
I'm just saying airburst is like the conventional way that you deploy a nuclear weapon.
And we have this sweeping part of the score by Michael Kamen, but what it doesn't do is go full John Williams. Because you would think that the author of the Superman score, you would try to copy that and just be so bombastic like he always is. But instead, it comes to a hit, and then like it all slows down. And you, instead of like your ears being bombarded, you have to sit there with that moment. There is still music, but he is making, Michael Kamen said, I'm going to make you think about this, instead of like giving him the heroic strings that Iron Giant probably deserves in your mind.
You're smart about movies.
Yeah.
Mike, follow that.
Oh, fuck. It was actually close to my being cringe because it feels so dipshitty compared to most of the rest of the movie. But Manly gets, let's be honest, poisoned by Hogarth. And then there's a hilarious montage where he's just running to the bathroom while like Shana Na style, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha is playing.
Dude. Yeah. The poop's coming out your butt.
And I was like, wow, this feels different than the rest of the movie in every single way.
Movies are so weird.
They are.
So many odd little like twists and turns and corners.
So many little
That's
choices.
a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also sounded smart, Mike. Kate, that's 2 smarts in a row.
I know. I don't think I'm going to be able to follow it up, but I did notice. The music overall, I felt was very. It felt like the animation style. You know, there was something a little reserved, a little tableau-y about it. You know, I felt like it was very not innocuous, but fit the tone of what we were looking at. And so the moment that I really noticed it felt like the most comic booky moment for its use of music too. And it's the very last scene when we get the Iron Giant reassembling himself on the Icelandic glacier, and we're following those, his body parts and the tools that build him back to his happy face. And in that moment, we have this kind of romping adventure time, you know, almost like a comic book, like, and this is the Iron Giant theme that we will hear for the rest of this series. You know, this will be the entrance every time we have one of these performances or whatever. I feel like that was a fun nod to the comic book hero trope that he's playing with.
And that's the music that I can't believe how much we brought up Independence Day, but we talked about how Independence Day ends, where like it builds and builds and builds and builds, and then like it goes right to directed by or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what you get when like Iron Giant smiles, and it's like bump up.
Can I say I'm not actually surprised by how much we brought up Independence Day, because Independence Day is obviously like a kind of take on War of the Worlds, and this is very much also engaged with that same thing. I mean, when he goes war mode and those tentacles come out, that's just War of the Worlds tentacles popping out of the back of him, you know?
I definitely saw the antecedents of the Incredibles monster there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. He's one of these tentacle guys.
He's one of the tentacle.
When that pops, when
metal
that
tentacles
pops up a few times,
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
A little bird brain.
I was just saying that you won the point, and then you go and do something like that. Well, I'll just give a point to Mike and a point to Kate as well.
Nice.
To counteract that. Mike, you're a funny guy. Is this movie funny at moments?
I do think the corniest, because we kind of skated over a lot of the corn, and the moments it's corniest was when it wanted to be funny. But one that I found charming was when Hogarth started to Kaiser Soze his grace. He is very panicked, and he is, oh God, please, blah, blah, blah. And like, don't do that, Satan. And I was like, all right.
Yes, dude. When he starts saying, don't do that, as the audience member, you're like, you got to say, don't do that, Satan,
Yeah.
right? And there's like this very pregnant pause while you wait for him to come to that conclusion. And when he does, it just hits. It just hits. I love it. Kate, how about you? What was your funniest moment of the movie?
Funniest moment? I don't want to repeat Mike's, but I do think that the way that they animated the hand had there was way more visual humor with that, because there was almost like a pet, so I felt like I enjoyed the way that they actually drew humor with the hand. Funniest moment was probably, I don't know. I would say I did enjoy the 37-minute later cut from the "Can you keep him?"
Yeah.
That was a moment where they made a choice to like to let us.
I mean, and this this predates like the SpongeBob meme. SpongeBob debuts 99, but like a few hours later, that's been like a big thing since SpongeBob. And it's not that it was invented by Iron Giant, but it's just like it does feel kind of fresh and new in that way.
And I think the number was like 37 minutes later. Like there was something that was specific enough to capture my attention.
Yeah.
Do you know what would have cards exactly like that at this time? Is Frasier starring the General.
Oh my
God. That's true. Wow,
that's a good show.
That's very true. Ryan, let's go to you. What is the funniest moment?
I'm going to take a little bit longer of a moment, but I love every second of it, even though it terrifies me as a parent and a movie watcher. We think that Iron Giant is walking away all mopey, and he's going to shove trees out of his way because, as Mike said, technology destroys nature. So he'll just like be a little brat and like he'll just push a tree over.
Dude.
And then he runs back and fucking cannonballs into the lake. Hogarth is in a tree just waving high, and then Dean just winds up on the street, floats perfectly.
Does like a 360, does like a full somersault.
Almost like the Wizard of Oz tornado where the cow just landed perfectly in someone else's farm. Dean lands perfectly on the road with some hillbilly, some mater from Cars coming up behind him going like, "What are you doing there?" And he's just like, "Get out of here, I'm an artist." All of it was perfect.
Okay, that is the moment. Specifically the like being underwater and the doing that flip, and then the guy being like, "You're in the street," and he's like, "You don't say." All right, let's go to our recommendations. Mike, let's start with you again. If you've seen the Iron Giant a couple times this week already, what should you do instead if you want that same feeling?
If you're like, I want a movie where somebody was designed to be a gun and ultimately makes the opposite choice, check out Nobody, especially because Nobody 2 is coming to theaters soon. He decides, you know what? He is a gun. I thought of this all week.
Bob Odenkirk as Nobody. Okay, very good. I like that. Kate, how about you? What do you recommend?
It's probably just because I've been watching it, but thinking about, disarming traditional masculine roles and figuring out how to take aggression away from the equation when you're trying to like mask and culture and stuff like that. I've been watching the Benito Skinner Amazon Prime show Overcompensating about a college student grappling with coming out. And it's really funny and it's really fun. I've really enjoyed watching it. But it kind of explores these themes too. The question of how much violence will I partake in to uphold normalcy, so that way I can hide behind it, even if it's counter to my actual nature. How much social kind of stuff like that. So I think it's worth checking out.
I mean, that feels like that's going to be the question of the next 4 years, right?
Yeah,
like how much will I just go along with before I do something other than
than being a gun.
Yeah.
The next 3 3/4 years, Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Touche.
4 months have passed. 4 months of the administration.
What a dad move to be like, no, we got through this in 18 months. 18 months.
Yeah. Ryan, what do you recommend?
I love those two recs. Those are I kept thinking of like E.T. and we can't say E.T. and I can't say Mac and Me.
I'm so bad at recommending for the exact reason. I'm like, read the play Hamlet.
And I just watched.
I literally recommended Hamlet after a movie.
I just saw Lilo and Stitch in theaters, and that is the exact same movie. Like a weapon from space lands and connects with the little kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to recommend the new Lilo and Stitch. So bad. But what I will say is a movie that like I thought really sparked when it came out a couple years ago. And then
The
sort of
old
went away.
Lilo and Stitch.
Have you heard of it? Called The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh my God, this is such a good recommendation.
And it's about a little kid who's too smart, like too clever and too quick. And
A family just trying to fucking stay together.
yeah, and then technology comes and they have to figure out like what is good and what is bad about technology.
Y'allsies, have you seen The Mitchells versus the Machines? Honestly, watch it. Like it's ostensibly a kids movie.
Oh yeah.
But
sure.
like this is anyone who can hear the sound of this, watch that movie. That's a great recommendation.
Yeah, and it I thought that for a week or two, this is the problem with Netflix movies is they get buried.
Yeah.
Under new stuff. But so I thought it was
So much of it very bad.
right.
Yeah.
And it'll never come out on DVD. It'll never be on TBS. So there's no continued conversation about it.
Yeah. That's a good one. Definitely check that out. Mine is if you are itching for a movie where Jennifer Aniston explains to basically a child how to be an actual man. Watch The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn.
Underrated.
I have to say, I think that a lot of the problems that plague males, even today, can be solved simply by watching the movie The Breakup. If you do not like your chances as a man, you can Vince Vaughn it up in the beginning of the movie and just act like a little piss baby and play your video games and not do the dishes and be a piece of shit. Or you can build your life. Make your life something worth living. And then watch as the world comes to you a little bit. When you can stand on your own 2 feet, when you can take care of yourself, when you build your life to be something that you can respect, and when you feel that respect for your own life, you will be like a light and people will be drawn to you.
Also, you see her butt.
Also, yeah, she's so fit. Oh my God.
Jennifer Aniston.
I have to say, I've always found her aesthetically, she's obviously very attractive.
Oh, good for you.
But she's just so physically fit that in a way, it's like she's like a different type of person.
Like a statue.
1999.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a statue that I'm in love with.
Like a statue I'm in love with.
Pygmalion, written by
There it
Ovid.
is.
Greg, you were really on a roll there. That was
Hamlet.
good.
Oh, thank you.
Man, yeah. Sorry to undercut it. It was good.
No, it's okay. That's what we do here.
Yeah, that's the job.
1999 movie where she meets a boy child and teaches him how to be a man.
Office Space.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
This is her thing.
She's so.
Oh my God! In real life, Brad Pitt. All she does is meet boy children and teach.
There's just not a lot of options for her.
No.
Most men are boy children.
There is something almost debilitating to being as attractive as she is, I think. It messes with your head.
Sure.
Yeah, you have too many options.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that
so
it's being that attractive and that successful and that visible and that hard to navigate it. Good luck, Jen.
Because when Brad Pitt comes at you,
we love you.
We love you, Jen. We're rooting for you.
We
You're
are.
so gracefully.
You're in my blunt rotation.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Jen, you're in all of our blunt rotations. All right, so let's see. We have the final scores here. I'm ready to tally it up. It looks like Kate, you ended the night with 46 points in a 3-person match. That's amazing. That's very respectable.
Thank you.
Mike,
sounds like I lost.
That does kind of sound like you lost.
Okay.
Mike, you ended up with also 46 points. Uh-oh. Let's see. Okay, Ryan, you ended up with 45 points. That means we have to go to the tiebreaker. It's time for a Greg compliment session. Mike, you had the first go.
Greg, you hosted the shit out of this and juggled all of her nonsense so flawlessly. Just job well done. I was going to text that to you later, but I guess I'll just say it on air for our listeners to hear.
You can still text it to me later. Mm-hmm. Kate,
Greg, I thought you did
with
such an incredible job booking this, getting me to commit to it, checking up with gentle reminders that were well paced out. I really admired your approach. I felt both obligated and excited. I felt it was impossible for me to bail in a way that was truly game respect game as a producer.
Now you're family.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to encourage /demand Well,
Yeah.
Kate, you've done it. You have done it. You have won. You have won the instant death compliment off. You have ended the night
Thank you, man.
with 47 points.
Feeling
We
good.
are going to take a quick break, and then we are going to call it a night. That is the Iron Giant show. I see big things in this Iron Giant's future. But which of the prestigious Moody's do we think it will win? Mike, let's start with you. What Moody's might we have here?
For the third week in a row, and maybe this will just be my go-to thing, Mr. Mansley is gunning for biggest shithead.
Kate, we have an award that we give to movies just for having the worst like person in them. Not villainous, but just like a big shithead.
Yeah.
And it feels like every week we get like another person sprinting to the front of the pack.
He ethers a child.
Ryan, that is bad. You shouldn't do that. Ryan, what do you think? What Moody's might be in the future here?
I would love to see, and I know this is such a long shot, but Vin Diesel, Best Actor.
Wow.
Can he do it?
Wow.
It's probably his only chance in his career to
Yeah.
get an award like this. So
that would be like the performance that's the Iron Giant would win then as well.
And keep in mind that we all had an opportunity to pick our favorite performance, and none of us picked it.
No.
But still, who knows what'll happen?
Kate, do you think that Jennifer Aniston has what it takes to win Best Actress this year, stacked up against other 99 movies like American Beauty, Office, or Fight Club? I almost said Office Space. The Green Mile.
Election.
I don't know. What are the chances for Jennifer Aniston to do it with a voiceover
Wait,
role?
is Toy Story 2 still in the running?
Toy Story 2 is still.
Then
very
I'm
much
sorry.
still
I
in
think
the running.
Joan knocks her out of the water.
Oh,
That's my personal. I think if we're talking lady voice actors and 1999 animations, I think that as soon as those two put in conversation, Joan Cusack is the obvious titan.
And maybe Rosie O'Donnell will figure her way into the nominations from Tarzan.
And I could see, I don't think this is the first movie that people think about with music, but I could see, one of the end of the year categories is music moment. I could see it coming from this. Your argument for the space element with the music there, I was very winning one, and I doubt there's going to be a better musical moment than that, or I could see there not being one.
Probably Car, drawn great 1950s cars. Maybe if you were somebody who noticed those things. Yeah. I don't, but I bet Greg clocked a few.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Man, one thing I really liked about this movie was they would have a car with a big bite taken out of it. Mm-hmm. There are such good big bites taken out of vehicles in this.
They made cars...
when Manly... What did you say, Kate?
So they made cars look like sandwiches. In a yummy way. Yeah.
When Manly gets in his car and then the big chunk is just taken out of it and he's like, what the hell is this? I love it. Kate, thank you so much for being on the show. You were a great guest. And you won, so you can take that with you. If the listeners at home want to follow you, want to hear your work, where can they check you out?
So my Instagram is kate.dellis.funny.kind. I'm a producer on The Culture Show on WGBH. I make features. The next one coming out is about the 50th anniversary of the filming of Jaws on Martha's Vineyard. So look out for that in the next couple of weeks. Nice. Check it out. 89.7 if you're in the Boston area.
Kate does legitimate radio stuff. I listen to the stations that incidentally carry Kate's show. That's so weird to me.
It's goofy. Yeah.
I didn't know something like that could happen. I have another friend who works for the local newspaper.
No, right?
And I will just be reading. Yeah, I'll just be reading the LA Times, and I will just see my friend's name, and it's like this feels like living in the comic.
Yeah, because it is made up, and it is that as fragile as you think it is. We'll see if we'll see if I have a job next week, man.
No, if this plug does not work from Kate, guys, the entire industry is going.
Yeah, NPR is crashing.
Just donate. If everybody who hears this donates $1, NPR can keep floating.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Do you want to hear Tiny Desk concerts? Because we're going to lose Tiny Desk concerts if you're not safe. That's how I heard of Chapel Roan. Yeah. I wouldn't even know who that was without that.
We're talking Tiny Desk USA, Tiny Desk Korea, Tiny Desk Australia. They will all go.
Listeners, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have so many great episodes still coming this season, and I hope you check them all out. But until then, keep watching them movies.